Honestly unbalanced.
I haven't seen you naked for a long time. It just occurred to me that I've known you, I think. Well, not known you. I don't think we've ever met, or maybe we crossed paths at an event at some point. But
Yeah.
I've known of you for a long time, and I think I just knew you as a naked guy. I haven't seen much of your bum lately.
I,
So have you moved on from that? Is that not part of it anymore? Is it still part of the branding? And did you
yeah,
use that initially just to get people's attention? What was the speak about that a little bit?
yeah. So I don't know whether to say I'm sorry or like I'm pleased that you're
Just
not
just DM
subjected to
me.
that,
DM me
or
some later.
we've already done that, haven't we? Yeah. So I don't know. To be honest, I think it's kind of like you said there, and just in your message, you said I kind of knew you as the naked guy, and I think at one point I sort of stood and I was like, I feel like I need to move beyond this now because
Mm,
that's become the sort of be all and end all of it, and it's not. Yes, it was a hook at the beginning, and yes, I felt well, I wanted it to have some depth and some presence in that. I did want it to be an open and a vulnerable way of expressing what I wanted to be about. That would be kind of eye catchy, if you like. Um, but I just felt, yeah, after a while, I was like, that's all that people are here for.
Mhm.
And maybe I kind of got a bit too serious with it, and I just sort of thought I need to move on. But I'm still like, some people, basically, like a lot of people I want to work with, I felt might have been pushed away by it.
mm,
I wanted to be meeting and working with men who wanted to go on a similar journey that I've been on. And I don't know if when I was in my mid-20s, if I was scrolling, suddenly I came across that image, I might have come to a point where I've been like, I'm not really sure I'm following this. Even like the ego might have kicked in and go, I don't want to be seen with a naked bloke on my screen. So I kind
mm.
of looked at my whole branding and I just sort of thought, do you know what? Let's drop off the nakedness. I'm probably going to lose a few, but I want to be something more than just the images. And
And in a weird way, you are very much in shape. You still are,
thank you.
and you were, and you were then. But in a way, that could have maybe put off some of the clients as well. In that, I think there's something really nice about the aspiration of being in good shape, etc. And certainly, depending on what I'm looking for in terms of service from a person, I would want that. But in the scheme of which you work, in terms of vulnerability, etc., the kind of people that might want to work with you, yeah, I agreed that might slightly have put them off. Whereas I don't know if you've heard of this guy called Andy Elliott. Have you heard of him? So he's on
Don't know.
social media. He's like a Tony Robbins, but business orientated, sales orientated, insanely good shape, super aggressive. I think quite toxic. Like getting people up on stage, ripping their shirt off, saying like you're fat. If you work for me, you'd be sacked. Yeah, and
Oh,
it's like
that's
I've
everyone
heard
that
terrible.
works for me has to have a six pack.
I've heard
Uh,
about this, yeah.
God, get it off.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we moved beyond that now, haven't we? It's
Well,
sort
so,
Yeah.
some
but
people have.
yeah, yeah, but I hear you. It can attract a certain. There is that movement, isn't there? That some people are like, yeah, that's drive and that's passion and that's like, and I probably was in that team for a while, and I would have judged and I put myself on a pedestal. Um, but I've quickly realized that yeah, that only got me so far and
Mm.
wasn't really a fulfilling way of being.
So,
Um,
so what was the starting point of the Naked Professor? What led you to decide to put yourself out there like that?
yeah, do you know what? There's a real story to this because I guess it started out of pain and desperation in that I was running a tech company and I felt really out of control. I felt in the hands of my developers and I couldn't speak their language and I couldn't, when we're having problems with this tech product, I couldn't do anything. I was like walking into the rooms trying to speak Chinese and I couldn't.
Mhm.
Mm.
And so I really wanted to take ownership of my life in a sense. I wanted something that was mine that I owned. And I knew that was about my purpose and my passion at that point was the growth and my personal development. And I knew that it was about being vulnerable and opening up. And at that time, I'd gone to America and I'd gone to Yosemite National Park. I don't know if either of you have been, but it's this beautiful, like nature at its most like powerful in the sort of grandeur of it. It's huge, massive trees and massive, everything's huge. And anyway, I was with a friend and we did this nature trail and it's beautiful. And then we're in this waterfall and it was so beautiful and really picturesque. And we'd sort of been bothering our mates, sort of going another picture, another. And they were like, "All right, bore off. We know you're having a great time." And then we sort of upping it a bit. And then we took this image of both of us like in nature, undressed, staring out into the distance, and sent that one almost as a bit of a, and that one got even like that, that really, then they really responded, and everyone was like, what the hell? Or someone like, that's actually a really cool photo. And but either way, there was a lot of attention around it. And I was like, do you know what? There's something in this marries up a little bit about what I want to share and how I want to open up. There's vulnerability in this. There's nakedness. There is a like unraveling of like bearing my soul, if you like. Can I marry that up in this world of, you've got to you don't have to make a noise, but if you, in our businesses, it's important to reach. It's our shop window. I was like, could I use this? I'm just about to embark on this message, share this passion of mine. Can I marry all this up? And so, yeah, the next thing I knew, I working with this photographer, and we were getting out into all these iconic London sites, and I wanted it to be like artistic, and I wanted it to be professional. I didn't want it to be sleazy and just a naked guy. So I wanted to really capture the images. So suddenly I found myself, walking over Millennium Bridge at 4:30 in the morning when kind of no one was there at sunrise, and capturing these images and sort of going on this crazy adventure. And we had some right laughs capturing the images and doing it all. But yeah, it reached a point where I was like, okay.
And beyond the imagery, what was the goal for you at that point in terms of the message you were trying to convey?
Like rawness, like truth, like a stripping away, because it been quite the opposite for me. Like for so long, I realized the masks that I was wearing, and the facade and the armor that I was carrying, and the just a lack of truth within me. And I wanted to just strip all that away. I was like, hey, this is me, and you'll feel this in my words and the way I show up, but I'll bring you here visually by representing that message from the word go.
And was that part of your work at that point, or did that then transition to it being what you wanted to do in your day to day?
It was like a passion project to see what happened at the beginning. I was like, I just want something that I own, that I'm passionate about, and let's just start this, and then who knows. And really quickly, like just writing about it, I was like, this is my passion. Like just showing up in this way, this is my truth. This is like freedom for me. I'm taking ownership of, like, because my words, there was a lot of vulnerability in what I mean, God, I don't really like saying that, because it makes vulnerability. I wasn't intending to be vulnerable. I'm going to be vulnerable to capture attention, but just through my truth, there was a lot of vulnerability in it, because I had been on a journey, and I was willing to express that.
At what point did you realize that you were wearing masks and you weren't connected to your truth?
Yeah, thanks, Holly. Yeah, because it's true. From like 30 years, I had no idea. I was wearing a mask. I had no idea it wasn't my truth. I really thought that's who I was, until I learned like this new part of me. And I was like, this feels much nicer. I feel more judged. I'm scared of what my brothers, my dad's going to make of me, what my friends are going to make of me being this way, but it is my truth. And I feel more relaxed, like more in flow, allowing myself to be this way, rather than having to show up and be a person that actually is quite a lot to kind of keep performing. So it's only when I started to see this other, I'll give you actually a really brief story if you don't mind, but
yeah, please.
I started working with a coach, and I was working with a coach purely because I had challenges around sex and I struggled to orgasm. That's why I started to work with her, because I was like 30, I want to have kids, I want to have a fulfilling relationship, like sexually fulfilling relationship. And I honestly was working with her because I thought she was going to teach me new tricks, and I was going to get more lad points, and it was going to be better sex and all stuff, right? And within a couple of months, she had me sending flowers to my mum, telling her I loved her. And I was like, cringe, but I know it's true, and I never tell her I love her, and I can't express that, but I know a part of me wants to. And what I would like the question you just asked, Holly, when did I start to know? When I shared that with my mum, what was going on in my head was the fear of judgment. Like, what's my dad gonna think? My brothers, my friend, da da da. What kind of guy, age 30, sends flowers to his mum and says, "I love you, mum. Thank you for everything." Like, loser. That's in my head, right? I'm sorry. This is what I learned as a man, right? Awful. And then, but inside of me, if I went really deep into myself, there was also this part of me that was like, I'm really happy she knows it, because it's my truth. And whilst I'm cringing, it's true. And so it was when I started tapping into that part and letting that part come alive, I was like, okay, there is this other part to me. And it does deep down, when I let go of the judgment, I started learning what was judgment and what was truth. I could see that that was my truth, that my love for my mum and my willingness to show my emotion. And the part that wasn't true is all the judgment and the part in my head that was saying you're a loser for doing this. And that was all the bullshit, excuse my language, but that I'd learned, that all the stuff that I'd learned around masculinity that wasn't true. It was just what had been presented to me. And so, yeah, the more I learned about myself,
so lovely. Where does it come from, this conditioning that it's weak for men to express their emotions? Like, where does that come from, and why is it so?
just everywhere, Holly. Adam, I don't know if you want to, like, I'll come to it if you.
No, you carry on. You carry on.
Yeah.
I'm,
Well,
I'm,
I
a,
know.
I'm a little bit cold sometimes.
Okay. Well,
So
we'll work on that. We'll work on
yeah.
that. No,
Yeah.
I never judge anyone because I was so cold. Like, it's not a bad thing, but I know for me, I am open and warm. And where it came from for me was just at a young age, just looking around in this world and seeing that if I wanted to thrive as a man, that I needed to perform in a certain way. And when I looked at it, James Bond, Rambo, Terminator,
Yeah.
Honest Sylvester Stallone, the men who were thriving, the men who everyone cheered as heroes and were aspiring to be, were like that.
Yeah.
And they weren't emotional. I mean, they were passionate about winning and dominating, getting the girls, but they weren't open, emotional, and vulnerable. Everywhere I looked, that message was there. In every sport I played, it was it was about winning as performance. At school, from as young as I can remember, I was judged I had like I was marked every week how I was performing, whether I was doing well or not. Everything is, if I wanted to do well, if I wanted to be celebrated, I had to win. Get the girls, be good at sports, be strong, be tough, never cry. All that stuff was everywhere I looked. And it's what I saw in my dad in many ways, in my older brothers. I was the youngest of three boys. Like, I didn't see anything otherwise. There was no other way.
Can I offer another source of it as well? I think
Yeah.
I certainly agree with all that. That the hardcore masculinity, for me, it was like the WWE wrestlers,
Yeah.
or WWF at the time.
Yeah.
But I think another factor for me that affects all men is a sense of duty. Well, not all men, but there is a duty to provide. Perhaps it's changed now to some degree. All genders are working more and the like. But back in the day, as it were, the man would traditionally provide. They would probably spend most of their day doing a job they didn't like, sometimes in very harsh conditions. Where I'm from in Birmingham, most of the people I would have known in my dad's generation were kind of manual workers or working in the Rover factory or the Land Rover factory or the Cadbury factory. They smelt a little bit better. That's what those men will be doing each day. They'd spend their day doing a job they didn't like, go home, and again, probably quite late sometimes. Maybe they would drink their woes away slightly, either before going home or whilst at home, and then end up spending their evening either, well, hopefully being there for their family to some degree and playing with their children, or maybe not. But I think that is still prevalent, this sense of duty of a man to protect, and decide to, even as a gentleman, let's say, you stand on the other, if you're walking with a female, you stand next to the road because you take the hit, as as an example, or you put yourself in harm's way first. There is this overwhelming sense of duty, and for you to fulfill that duty, you can't get too emotional because then emotions then cloud it. So I think that maybe is a big factor. That not just that all the men want to be like the wrestlers or alike, but all men, maybe, perhaps not all, but a lot, especially generations ago, feel a duty to protect, to provide, to take the hit, to take the burden. There was an interesting, it wasn't in England, I forget which country it was, and again, it's anecdote, but there was this interviewer saying to people on the street, like, if you or your partner had to die, we were going to take one of you and kill one of you, which one should we kill? And all the men said, kill me. And of course, heavily edited video, but all the men said, yeah, kill me, love my, and all the women said, yeah, kill the man, he'd want me to be alive. And complete anecdote, but it may be an extreme example of what I just alluded to.
I totally hear you.
I was
Sorry,
just
go on,
going to say,
honey.
but can you still be all of those things as a man? Be the protector, be the strong, grounded one, but also express your emotions at the same time without them clouding, your judgment or your protective qualities, etc.
And that's exactly where I come from. And with my work, I don't want to take, the stoicism, the ability to have purpose and drive and to get stuff done even when it's hard, and to um uh not deny your emotions, but to move beyond your emotions at times, because we can't all just go, oh, I don't feel like going to work today. My nose is a bit sniffly and I just feel a bit tired. So I'm not going to do that today. We're not going to get very far. So, having that commitment to do these things. But yeah, the full expanse for me, and I always come to this because I think it's such a great framework. But Carl Jung had the archetype, the archetypes for men, which is that within every man is a warrior, a lover, a magician, and a king. And the principle being the warrior is the part, goes and gets stuff done, is focused, determined, knows what he wants, and he goes after it. And the lover is the side that is experiencing, feeling life, connecting, nourishing, nurturing, like our senses. And the magician is the part that can create and be open to expanse and to learn new things and to grow and to know that we're never stuck. We can always learn something new and grow. And then it's only then when we've got we step into each archetype that we become our king. And the king is part of us that knows that when we need to, we can be a warrior. When we need to, we can be the lover. When we need to, we can be the magician. And now we're the full expanse of a man. And what I see in our world is that we've got very stuck in the warrior energy, and that's great. I never want to take away the warrior as long as it's channeled in the right direction, which I also think we've got a bit lost with where the warrior is channeling. But it's to also know that we can be a warrior and we can contrast and be the lover as well. We can be tough, strong, focused, determined, and we can be soft, gentle, nurturing, kind, compassionate as well.
That's
When you say
beautiful.
the warriors got lost, are you alluding to things like the Andrew Tates of the world, or the glorification of financial success and the big cars, etc.? Is that what you mean, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah, so a key part of the warrior is strangely is finding stillness, and in that stillness knowing your purpose, knowing your path, and then fearlessly going after what really matters to you. I think where we've got lost with in the warrior energy is that we don't spend that time in stillness. We're always doing, and we're in this world of telling us, dangling all these little treats and these attractive ways of being that give us instant gratification. And without stillness and without knowing our heart's true intent or our real purpose, we're just going boom, 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 chase, 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 without knowing if it's really serving us. So we're putting our energy into things that are never really fulfilling us, and then we're wondering why we don't feel great on the inside.
And can you speak a little bit about then the tools that you're using to help men back on that path?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a huge one is breath work now, because um, breath work. I talked about stillness, and we struggle to find stillness in this world. We're very good at tuning into what we think, and hearing that, but we're not so good at hearing our heart, the truth, the deeper aspects of who we are, what is really within us when we sit in stillness. In fact, even if I said this to myself 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I wouldn't even have known. I would have been like, I don't even know how to listen to that. I wouldn't know where to start. I can sit in stillness and can do my fingers and whatever else. I can do my yoga, and I still won't know what the hell I'm listening to. I'll just be, my voice will be going, I don't know what I'm listening to. It's a waste of time. I've got emails to do. I need to go and do my stuff. And that's all I can hear. And so breath work is a really powerful tool from scientific perspective, in that it quietens that chatter. Like we increase the oxygen in our body, we decrease the levels of CO2, and then we actually create a physiological change that means that we're actually depriving our brain of oxygen. And as it deprives of oxygen, it becomes more efficient in its use. And part of that efficiency is that it quietens the prefrontal cortex, which is the rational planning part of us. And as we quieten that and then we find more stillness. It's like we don't hear the chitter chatter. We're not thinking of our emails anymore. That part's all quietened. And so now we have this opportunity to hear within. And as we're listening within, there's answers to things that we never connect to in our day-to-day world of running around doing. So now we can use that knowing, that information, to now, like, what really matters, what's really there for you, what are you feeling, what's there for you in that stillness, and then create a direction from that place, rather than, is that Einstein who says we can't solve the problem from the place that we created it, the same place that we created it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us are running around trying to think the solution to our problems, but we're thinking from the place that we created the problem, and we're just coming up with the same kind of solutions. When we find the connection to something deeper within us that has a different path, a path of truth and knowing rather than thinking, it's like, oh, now that's a different direction for me to head in. That's different choices. It's a different way of being, which effectively is the path that I've chosen through my life.
Beautiful. Did it happen quite gradually for you, this kind of realization that you were, I guess, in your warrior energy and not enough in your heart? Or was it like a moment of realization, or was it a gradual process?
It does take time. Yeah, there might be some moments where you're like, oh, but yeah, it's really tiny step by tiny step over. I mean, I'm still on the journey. I'm still doing this work. I'm 43 this year. It started at 30. You know, it's still, and that will continue. But yeah, it's tiny bit by tiny bit. But obviously through awareness. I mean, just the framework of the archetypes. When I first learned about that, and I was almost like, suddenly I had this permission. I was like, so you mean I do have a lover inside of me, and I can be a lover, and I can still be a warrior? That just that permission was like a big moment for me to go, okay, now I can expand. I can be sensitive and kind, and it doesn't mean I'm not still strong and tough. So yeah.
So if a guy wanted to develop themselves in this way, so if any guys are listening to this, what would be the next step for them? Like, would it be to do any particular guided breath work? Would it be to do you run retreat sessions? What would be the next step for someone? And is it just breath work?
No, breathwork is a tool. Yeah, I think what's really important in the personal development journey is that there is no one size fits all. There isn't, you know, if there's a book that we could all pick up and read it, and now bingo, we've all enlightened and we've got it. Everyone is different. So for me, that there is a journey, and I think there are stages of growth, and it starts with awareness. You know, starting to understand that perhaps we're not being the person that either we'd like to be or we're capable of being, or to look at the possibility of more potential within us, or just to look at the pain that we're holding on to and we want to move beyond that. But that awareness, bringing something, giving our purpose, our why, as to why we're going to do this work, because it's hard and it's challenging, and it's much easier to just stay as we are, right? For all of us, it's always easier that way. So it starts with awareness. Then for me, it's about looking at what we're holding on to, looking at the patterns, the beliefs that we've got. Like I learned that I learned that I had to be a certain kind of man to thrive, and to start to question that belief. Is that really true? And understand that it's there, and to see it, and what would life look like on the other side of that. So to bring some softness, to soften that belief, so I'm not now charged by it. I can now see it and create separation from it, can see it, and then look at like, okay, well, if I'm not who I learned to be, if I'm not that man who I learned to be, like, who am I really? Like, what really are my values? What really is my expanse of who I am? Do I really have that possibility to love, to express love, to be kind, to be compassionate, still be focused, to be basically the archetypes, if you like, to be, do I have that possibility within me? And then from that place, if I do have that possibility to be all of those parts, if I can tap into them in some capacity, what kind of future can I create for myself now in being all of those parts? Like, what kind of relationship can I have if I'm capable of being a lover? What kind of job can I do if I'm capable of showing up passion, purpose, determination, and drive, and then leave that and create some magic and be creative and expressive as well when I leave the office, or when I get home to my kids, or whatever it is, when I'm playing my sports? Like, what future is possible for me now? Because I think so many of us get stuck and limited in our pattern that's just, this is who I am. Don't try and change me. This is what I do. I know it's hard here, but that's who I am. It's just, that's it. And it's very limited. I always love, sorry, I'm throwing so much at you. I just love this one analogy. Thank you. There's one analogy that I love to use, which kind of resonates with me because it was my world, and that's in the sport of rugby in this country. I often saw this, that if you were the tough guy, which there are on the rugby pitch, right? It's the tough guy, the enforcer, and they don't take any shit and they get it done. They play that role the whole time. Generally, it's like they can never show a chink of weakness, because it's like, if you've got that chink of weakness, and suddenly you're not as tough anymore. I can see that you're gentle now, and that impacts your whole identity. Can you still be as tough now? We know you've got that kindness, that weakness in you. So we play that role, always the warrior at all times, and you'll never see anything outside of me. Whereas when I look at the South Sea Island rugby players, the Fijians, the Tongans, the Samoans, these beautiful, like huge men, so powerful, so physical, and you watch them play and you're like, whoa, these guys are crazy. They're so physical and powerful. And you're in awe of their kind of warrior status. And then they come off the pitch and they're like poking each other, hugging, and they're singing and they're dancing and there's like big, gentle, like cuddly bears. And I'm just like, in that instance, there is men who show us all of who they can be in that, just in that spectrum, just in the game and after the game. And we love them. We celebrate. We love it that they come and they're so cuddly and they're singing and they're so like they hug each other. And we love that. And they're really celebrated. But we struggle to allow ourselves to expand our identity in the same way because they've grown up in a different sense that it is. Men do dance, they do sing, and they do hug, and they do kiss, and they do say, "I love you, my brother," and all that.
And what's interesting, that I know, as I'm sure you, like lots of people from that demographic who are now living in the UK playing rugby, a lot of the men really struggle with UK culture.
Yes.
And then alcoholism can be quite rife,
Yes,
and depression can be quite rife. It's just that it's just completely different. It's a completely different way of being a man. And perhaps, you know, the UK society just says to them, all they are warriors. They are the big scary warrior, and that is the completeness of who they need to be.
I think it really hurts when we bury aspects of who we are. It hurts us on the inside. We're no longer free. We're no longer getting to be all of who we are. We've got to repress, hide, wear the mask, and that's heavy. It's heavy. So that's a beautiful analogy, Adam. Yeah, exactly. I hear you. Thank you.
How has doing this work and being on this journey impacted your relationships?
Yeah. Thank you. Like I've really learned that I didn't know this at the time, but my relationships were so limited, and uh, they tick boxes. You know, the girls look pretty, and I hold their hand, and it's like, oh, well done, Ben. You know, she's good, and we're like, yeah, she's cool. But it could only go so deep. I only go so far. I wouldn't let her in. I didn't know how to get into her, into her heart, to feel her, to have experiences together, because it was all just, yeah, thanks, nice, yeah, good. Let's do this. Let's go here. Da, da, da. And so, and I because I didn't know any different, it was what it was. And I think there's a lot of men who are in that space. They don't know, they've never experienced a deeper, more open, more connected relationship. So they're not missing out, which was my story. Now, my experiences with this actually started like on retreats and personal development experiences where, you know, I made a promise to myself that I would share, I would participate in this, and I'd stand up in front of groups and say like, yeah, my story is I struggle to orgasm, and you know, and I was petrified at the time. And I'd say it with a voice shaking because I felt, you know, what, like who says this? It's, you know, there's so much shame around it, so much inappropriate. Like who's saying this? But when I expressed this and people could hold that space and then kind of come and say, thank you so much for sharing that, Ben. I like, it was beautiful, or whatever they shared. I was like, oh, like I feel closer to you in this moment than I do most of my friends who I just, you know, I've known for years. But now I feel something different to you right now. And I want this in my friendships and in my relationships. So now I started to know that there was more. And so then in my relationships, I started to seek that. And now for me, it's my driver that it's an essential. Like I feel sorry for my girlfriends. They're like, I thought I always wanted depth. Now I'm like, okay, chill out on the depth bit. Like, can we not just talk about this like for a bit, please? And because that's intimacy for me. It's like, let me into your heart. Let me know like what's underneath. What's going on for you? Why are you needing to behave that way? Or I'm not judging you. I want to hold you. I want to understand you more. And I want you to do that for me because I want you to know me like no one else knows me. And I want to know you like no one else knows you, because that's what brings tightness. That's what brings teamwork, passion for me. And so, yeah.
And all those questions are just at your breakfast with your partner. That's a breakfast conversation. But
Exactly.
those questions can be so powerful. And actually, we often need something to instigate them. And most couples wouldn't even know, or most men wouldn't even know how to start with that. There's something called, I don't know if you've come across it, the School of Life.
Yeah.
And no, he created, well, he didn't, Alan didn't create them. You know, someone in his team created like intimacy cards.
Yeah.
And Holly and I did them a while back, like in the garden. Was it pre-Sunny?
No. He was
He
upstairs
was just
to
in bed.
sleep, I think. Yeah.
And we're in the garden with the fire, with cocktails. It was amazing.
Beautiful.
Really.
How did it feel, Adam? Like initially, did you have any like trepidation or like any
Oh,
fear around it?
no. So I
You're
say I'm
open.
cold. It's more
You're
that
not
I'm not
cold.
cold particularly.
Yeah.
It's more that things don't come to the surface for me particularly easily. They come out my mouth. The only thing that really makes me cry is a good audition on Britain's Got Talent.
Oh, well, they are emotional. Yeah.
That's designed to be. But that's about the only thing that makes me kind of cry. My face is quite default angry the whole time. So, but I think verbally things come out, and there's no issues with me being vulnerable. I don't think. Oh, are there?
Well,
Oh,
maybe
God.
we need to have a session with Ben. Who knows? No, do you know what? I think that Adam has got I think that Adam can come across like unapproachable. I mean, I was terrified when I first met him. I fancied him, but I was quite scared of him.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't see what's underneath Adam, but people can feel it, and there is a really sweet, sensitive soul. And I'm going to be honest, I do think that you are scared sometimes to show the full spectrum of your beautiful, sensitive soul. And I'll leave it there.
As in, show it publicly.
Well, yeah, with me as well, a little bit. Now you do a lot, but I can feel that there's more to go. But that's why we've chosen each other. That's what I believe. You know, I think I've chosen him for whatever reason. He's maybe chosen me for that softness, that sensitivity, and I believe in that. You know, that people come together to help make each other whole.
And equally, I'm a firm believer of when you fall for someone, they will have certain things that you particularly love about them, certain qualities that draw you in. And all of those qualities have an equal and opposite side to them. Like if you love someone because they're highly organized and they organize a second date, third date, fourth date straight away and create an amazing itinerary for your first weekend away, at some point in your relationship, the fact that they are so organized will slightly do your head in because maybe there is less spontaneity at certain times but I think there is always these equal and opposite qualities.
I feel like we're detracting from what we were just talking about, Adam. I feel like that was a bit of self-sabotage there.
No, but it's beautiful, and I hear you, and I think we're going into the complexities of all this. I don't think it is necessarily right to always be really open and emotional, vulnerable, and all of this stuff, because look, we're going into sort of traditional sort of masculine, feminine stereotypes here, but polarity does matter, and it is important to be able to hold space, and for someone to be able to express openly and know the other one's got it, and vice versa. And if we're both like deeply emotional and in floods of tears, who's holding anything? You know, and so there is that, and traditionally, whether it's because of the masculine gene or because of society's impression of what a man should be, but traditionally the man is a bit more structured and centered and able to hold that stillness and let the emotion kind of be held and not express it so much themselves, but just be still with it. And we need that polarity in some capacity, but it's just not to say, I think where we've got a bit stuck with it is to say that the man should always be that, and the woman should always be the one who's bringing that, because actually the man also has a need sometimes to emote, and it's beautiful for him to sometimes be held, for his partner to be able to say, hey, it's okay, you can cry with me. And, it's okay.
So would you say it's about both men and women doing the work to balance both of their masculine and feminine energies within them, so that they can be both the space holder and the one that gets emotional without feeling bad about it?
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful. Like we all we all have masculine and feminine energy, of course, and I think if we are a man who deprives ourselves of ever expressing or feeling into or coming from our feminine, then we are depriving a natural part of us, and vice versa for women. And that's where I think it's really important that we come from this place that women can be whatever they want to be, and men can be whatever they want to be. Women are powerful leaders. Men can be nurturing house husbands. There is no one size fits all. But I think what we're just acknowledging is that if you are perhaps a little bit more of a feminine man, which is nothing wrong with that, because you can still have the masculine leadership, you can still be a powerful leader and in your feminine. I've forgotten where I was going to go with it, but yeah, it's like both. It's all like we all have all this stuff within us, and if we're depriving either side of it, then we're depriving aspects of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
What men come to you? Is it men that are already kind of in the choir and already well up for it?
In the choir?
Is that in the band?
What's
So,
that?
I'm trying to say singing from the same hymn sheet, but
Okay.
rather
I
than
know this
actually
one.
explain it from the choir. But are they already singing from the same hymn sheet, or are they men that have kind of identified something and maybe they could benefit from you, or do you get men that have just been persuaded that they need something and their partner or their friend has said, right, you need to go to this workshop or this retreat, etc.? Like, what level are most of the men that end up working with you at?
Yeah, I'd say all of the above, and even that one he touched on there, the girlfriends pushing them, saying, or the wives saying, you need to do some of this stuff, but and also, by the way, a lot of my clients end up being women, because we live in this world where the world tells us to be warriors.
Mm.
It's not just men, it's women who are experiencing this too, and a lot of women like aren't happy in that space, and a lot of men are depriving themselves of this. So, but yeah, it's the essential for me in all of this, that the way that I try and piece it together is ultimately, if you can connect with like a lack of purpose within you, or something that feels like you're missing something, or your life is good in many ways, but there's still an element of like being unfulfilled, and you don't know why, and it's like, I'll help you uncover that, because there's something that's missing, that perhaps you're depriving, that you're not allowing yourself to be at this point.
Do you think that is like a lack of connection with a part of you, in a way?
Yeah.
Is that where that unfulfillment comes from? It's because you're kind of looking outside for validation, etc., rather than kind of going within? Would you say that's mainly what it is?
I'd say that's the like top level
Yeah.
part of what it is, yeah. But there's a whole lot underneath that,
Yeah,
in terms of like, well, why are you depriving yourself? And then doing a lot of work to uncover, like, and to that often takes a lot of bravery, because your identity that you've built up could be 40 years worth of avoiding that part of you, thinking it's unsafe because from age 3 your dad showed you, or whatever it was, and whatever came up for you in your world showed you that that part of you is not acceptable, or if you behave that way around the people you value, you're cast aside or told not to be that way. And so, and like, and as an absolute essential, you have learned, do not be this way, and in not being that way, you've missed parts of who you are, and now you're age 40 and you've firmly not that person, but it's limiting you, and you're not stepping into areas that the truth is you want to be.
How do you prefer to do your work? Do you prefer the one-to-ones? Do you prefer retreat format or big event format? Where do you find the best work is done?
I love a retreat in person, and you see people physically change. You see them, how they look and how they appear, and like, for me, the most powerful missing thing in this world, or that we're depriving ourselves of, is human connection, is experiencing the intimacy of an open heart with someone else, like, where how great it feels when you really feel seen, and you really feel like you can see them, and you really get each other, and you can just totally be yourselves, and it feels great, and it just, yeah, and it's nourishing. So in-person retreats, and my experience is ultimately getting people out of their head and into their heart being their deepest truth, and their head being the learned version of who they think they should be. So taking them into their heart, suddenly they're free and they're liberated, and they're like, oh, I can finally be myself. I feel so great. And then other people doing that same journey, and everyone coming together and shining from that same place. And there's just fun and lightness to that. It's beautiful.
I think it's very rare that in the modern world people get to be themselves, because they often are there to fulfill a role. They're often in a place as a parent and they're speaking to other parents at an event, or they're in work or a social event related to work or the like. And I, for one, I can admit this, I struggle when I don't have a role. I went to an event with a massive company the other day, like, the world's biggest company, literally. And it was an event, like a socializing event and launching a new product, etc. And I hated it. Not hated as in the people were
Hope they're not
lovely.
listening.
No. The people were lovely. But and again, a little bit deaf at times. So I struggle with like big groups all talking amongst each other. So that's kind of an excuse, but also half truth in that.
Yeah.
But there's it was all fitnessy people. So big groups of fitnessy people chatting. Well, not big groups, but groups of 5 chatting. They're all, some of them, many of them know each other. Fitness people, quite outgoing, quite loud. And I just couldn't mingle. I just sat and looked out a beautiful window and just observed. And perhaps because I have, again, that look of slight arrogance, that no one thought, oh, he's shy, let's go and chat to him. They probably just thought, oh, he's a bit of an arsehole, he doesn't want to speak to anyone, or like. And I, without a role, I hate it. Put me in front of 500 people, I'm fine. Put me in any other setting, I'm fine. But groups, when I don't have a role, and I think many people are like that. It's very rare in their life that they can just be themselves. And if they can get to be themselves, be able to then let go as themselves, where they don't have a role.
I'm so with you, and yeah, what you expressed then is just it hurts us when we don't get to be who we really are. You know, it hurt. Like it's you say you hate it. I would say that almost it's like you hated it because it didn't feel comfortable. It felt like there was something within you that felt I'm not free. I can't just relax. I'm like, and I would argue that a lot of us in this world live like that. We don't know ourselves, so we don't know how to be ourselves, and we're just constantly performing. Maybe I'm projecting that because that was my experience for a long time without knowing it. But I definitely felt like I had to be someone that wasn't naturally like in alignment with who I really was. So it hurt and it was draining. I was tired. So I really hear you.
And I think an extension of that as well is true. You can be around people all day and not be connected to them, can't you? In a sense. And I remember articulating that to someone I dated years ago. And it wasn't actually at that point, I was teaching yoga, but also my job was doing lots of kind of youth work, etc., and managing these buildings. So I was around people all day, every day, big groups, small groups, teaching people. Now, if it was a busy day, I would be verbally speaking to like 500 people throughout the day. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel like I connected to anyone. And again, I'm sure lots of people have that situation, and especially in the wellness, people in the wellness industry as professionals are often around people, but very rarely with anyone, truly.
Yeah, they say, there's 2 epidemics. Well, I don't know how many epidemics they're going on, but stress, we're also stressed and it's a killer, but loneliness is kind of the one that's kind of creeping up on us now, and how lonely we are. And obviously we're in theory in this most connected world ever. And actually there's so much loneliness. London is an incredibly lonely city. Everyone's off doing everything. But like unless we're really connecting at a level where we feel seen, heard, and understood, because lonely. And I don't know, how can we feel seen, heard, and understood if we can't actually be ourselves in the first place? No one can understand us if we're not being ourselves.
Do you feel that there is this kind of movement towards authenticity? Because I can almost feel it. It's like the old stuff, even though it's still so there on social media, it's all these great things and people's attention span is so short and there's a lot of all of the, the noise. But underneath it, it feels like that is just slowly falling away, and people do want, realness and truth and authenticity. Do you feel that? And do you struggle to kind of present yourself in that way, in, I guess, a world that, where people's attention spans are really short and they want quick, snappy videos?
God, yeah. It's really hard, isn't it, in that sense? Yes, I really hear you. And I do believe there is a drive towards authenticity. I do. Because I think we've been inauthentic for too long, and there is this kind of learning of this. And we're starting to realize that it hurts when we're not. I think there is that realization. Maybe that's my bubble, because in the wellness sector, if you walk into a bank, they'd be like, everyone would think they're completely authentic, and not to, by the way, I'm not judging anyone making a bank wrong in that capacity, but I think perhaps you don't do so much introspective work in that environment. It is do. And they're not. They think they're 100% are. I mean, look, I think we all think we are being authentic. I don't think any of us sit there and go, I'm being really inauthentic, because if we reach that point, then we'll probably do the work. That's enough. That realization is.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think we probably all do think we are being authentic. It's only when we discover the next part of ourselves They were like,
Yeah.
loads of my friends say, Ben, you seem pretty happy in your 20s doing your thing. Like, it didn't seem like how you talk about it now. And I was like, it felt that way to me too. I thought I was having great fun. I did think it was all brilliant. You know, we're in Vegas every summer and we're doing all our things. I thought, this is amazing. I'm living the dream. Amazing. In some capacity, it was, but underneath, inside, there was emptiness. And it's only when I discover what that emptiness was about and stepped into it that I can be like, okay, I was being inauthentic. But at the time, I had no idea. And I think there are loads of people out there who think they're being authentic, and maybe there's more.
That makes sense.
It reminds me of a sketch from the guys that did the Peep Show, and it shows the barracks of an SS group, obviously World War II, and them saying to each other like, "Are we the bad guys? We do have a skull and crossbones on our hat. Like, are we?" And that revelation of, am I actually being inauthentic? Is this me? Similar revelation. I do believe that people are increasingly, as well as consumers of information or consumers of content, wanting more authentic content. It's not wellness industry at all. Have you come across a guy called Sam Sulek?
No.
So he is like a 20-year-old kid who is huge, like bodybuilder, huge, like obscene, like obviously on steroids, but nothing wrong with that. But his videos are really poorly edited, like barely edited at all. And it's just him being himself, walking around the gym, like being a bit sarcastic. They're long form, like hour-long videos. And like his videos get millions and millions of views. Like he's got frizzy long hair, but it couldn't be more beyond the steroids. It couldn't be more like, this is just me, and it's not particularly trying hard. And so I think there is a movement towards that. People wanting, not everyone, but wanting kind of things that feel real, things that they can relate to.
I think we should wrap up.
Do you have a closing question?
Well, Ben, are there any like last words of wisdom from your heart for the audience today? Anything that maybe you could speak to someone that might have been in your position a few years ago and feels that sort of calling inside them, like something's a little bit off. Like, what's the next step?
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. I don't know. I have two quotes that I kind of are at the core of my work, and one of them, it says, "Your wound is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility," which I know can be quite triggering for some people, because, well, for all sorts of reasons I won't get lost in. But I think that is if we can find softness to just to look at that and engage with it, then it's a beautiful place to start. Like, I am really come from a compassionate place where I'm not blaming anyone for where they're at. I really believe that we are much more a product of our environment and who we've learned to be. And no one teaches us how to be our real selves. So I'm never blaming anyone because I lived that life and I don't blame myself for that. So, but just to look at like what we're feeling, like start with, how are you? Like, really, I know, and that's the most basic thing to start with. If I was to answer that question really truthfully from the depths of not how I'm feeling just in this moment, but how am I feeling about like my life? Like, really, what's there? Start from that place. We can't heal what we don't feel. So allowing ourselves to bring that up. And then the second part is, which I think is really relevant in today's world of kind of instant gratification. And that is, don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want now. Because I do think a lot of us are sacrificing like what we really want and what we really seek and who we really are for what fits in now or what feels good now. And we're just on this constant treadmill of like, now, give me that, give me that, give me that. And we're missing out on what we really want. When we miss out on what we really want, we're losing the relationship with ourselves. Like, we're denying ourselves, we're sabotaging ourselves. So those two things sort of stand out to me in terms of starting places. Just looking at that and seeing what comes up for you.
Thank you.
And tell us where people can find you or any events or like you've got coming up.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess like the world revolves around Instagram, doesn't it? So I'm no longer the Naked Professor. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I don't know. But I'm Ben Bidwell _ on Instagram. My website is benbidwell.com. I do live events, beautiful, like with a sound healer. She doesn't like to be called a sound healer, but I think she's a sound healer. I don't know what else to call her. This beautiful operatic voice, and that just takes you into the depths of your soul. And we combine that with breath work to take people on a beautiful journey. We call that alchemy. So we do that live and in person every sort of month or 6 weeks. So the next one's actually coming up next week. I don't know when this is coming out, but next Wednesday evening. Which of course you're both, like, I know you have commitments and out of town, but you're both so invited to that if you'd like to come. It would be an honor to like share with you. Festivals in the summer. Hopefully I'll see you both there. In fact, Holly, I haven't said this to you, but I think the first time I ever connected with you or online and followed your stuff was, I'm sure I heard you at Wilderness. Would that be right? A few years ago.
Yeah, we've been there for about 3 or 4 years, I think.
Yeah.
So, oh, okay. Did we
Yeah,
meet
sure.
there?
No, I just walked past and I was like, what is this? This
Oh,
is so beautiful.
oh,
And then I looked on the schedule and then followed you from that place. That was the start,
amazing.
whenever that was. But yeah, maybe I'll see you at some festivals.
Yeah, I hope so.
And share there. So
Awesome. Well, thank you for your
Thank you
time.
so much,
It's been a
Ben.
pleasure.
It's amazing. Thank you.
no, thank you for having me.
Honestly unbalanced.